What's up, you guys? It's been a long time since I've posted a video, but today I'm bringing you the Holy Paladin guide for patch 8.3, an updated guide, because I promised you guys this quite a while ago. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering where I've been, but I've been gone because I've moved for the third time in the past like 2 years or something. But I'm bringing you guys a guide at my new place. I'll be back to streaming at twitch.tv, which you probably saw somewhere on the screen, or you'll be seeing it somewhere else on the screen. And if you're also looking for coaching, you can check out my Patreon page, support me on Patreon, and also receive some coaching at the same time. Most inexpensive coaching anywhere. Now, enough with all of the sales talk. I will be going over the Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin for patch 8.3. If you're just picking one up, if you're making an ult because there's some catch-up systems that have been put into place, if you have been maining Holy Paladin is probably the strongest healer in the game, period. I mean, all around. Exceptional in raids, exceptional in Mythic Plus, and it's probably one of the strongest healers when it comes to PvP and Arena. Specifically Arena, not so much BGs and stuff like that. But in general, the Holy Paladin just excels everywhere. So if you're someone that likes to do a little bit of everything, the Holy Paladin is probably for you. If you're somebody that likes to do specifically Arena, the Holy Paladin is probably for you. If you like PvE, the Holy Paladin is probably for you. So I'll be going over the Holy Paladin today. And like all of my guides in the past, I'll be going over our general talents. I'll be then going over our PvP talents. I'll then cover your gear and stats. I'll cover Azerite Traits, corruptions, and then I'll offer some general tips and advice if you are new to the class, and I'll refer you to some of my previous guides where I break it down a little bit more in depth. Now, if this guide does not help you in the way that you were hoping for, or if you have some extra questions, you of course can leave some comments in the comment section below. And you can also check out Borngood, who's an exceptional Holy Paladin, a very friendly streamer, someone that I would recommend you guys go ahead and check out. I'll put his stream somewhere here also on the screen. All right, now hopping straight into your general talents for this guide, you have a couple options here. Well, just two. You have Crusader's Might and Bestow Faith. Crusader's Might might be something that you're very familiar with in PvE. If you are a PvEer, it's not that effective in 3v3. It can be used in 2v2s. The more Crusader Strikes you're throwing out, the more damage you're dealing, the more Holy Shocks you're getting out. Can be fun in 2s, especially if you're playing like a little bit more aggro, but Bestow Faith is just the go-to option. Very mana efficient. It's a delayed heal, so you can use it to kind of prevent or get some healing out during moments of CC. If you think you're going to be getting placed into a stun, or if you think your ally is going to be taking some damage in a bit, or if he's going around a pillar, it's just good delayed healing, and it's very mana efficient for a very powerful heal. Then you have level 30, and you have Cavalier and Unbreakable Spirit. Both these options are great in their own right. For 3v3s, I typically take Unbreakable Spirit because you are playing, a little bit of a spoiler here, you are playing Ineffable Truth. So Ineffable Truth means that you're getting your CDs back faster. Shortening down those CDs is going to be very effective. However, Cavalier is amazing in its own right. Gives you extra mobility. It's great for kiting. It's great for playing a little bit more aggressive as well. So I take Cavalier a lot in 2v2s, but versus like Rogues, for example, in 2s, I take a lot of Unbreakable Spirit, and in 3s, I prefer Unbreakable Spirit, but you can't go wrong with either. I just prefer Unbreakable Spirit when paired with Ineffable Truth. Level 45, all of these options are now pretty relevant. Fist of Justice will be your more aggro 2v2 talent. You can play in 3s if your team doesn't need Repentance or Blinding Light. If you are playing a lot of Rogue Mage, you'll find that Blinding Light with Ineffable Truth, a lot of this revolves around the Corruption Ineffable Truth. If you're stacking like 7 of them, Blinding Light is very effective there. Previously, it was a long CD, but now that the CD is going to be reduced due to Ineffable Truth, you can get a lot more out of these. And you can be going in for Hajas into a Blinding Light, and that is like similar to a Discipline Priest, right? In the Rogue Mage 3v3 comp, you would notice that Disc Priest pushing for Fears. You can now push in for Blinding Lights at a more reliable pace, I should say. Repentance, very good in 2s, very good in 3s if you're playing with a Warlock. Fist of Justice is something that you'll be doing a lot in 2s, unless you're playing with like a Rogue, and you want to be going in for more Hajas. Or if you want to be going in for more reps off kidneys. It just depends on the comp and your playstyle. All of these have merit, and you need to figure out on your own what class you're playing with. And if your comp has a lot of stuns and you need a in cap or a rep, you can play that. If your comp has sheeps and you don't really need stuns and you don't really need repentances, they share the same DR, you'll be playing Blinding Light. So for Rogue Mage, you'll probably be playing Blinding Light. I take Blinding Light a lot in 2v2s as well. Versus Rogue Mage. So if I'm queuing into a Rogue Mage in 2s, I play Blinding Light because I want that extra form of CC to try and bait out trinkets. So if I get jumped on by a rogue and a mage, or my ally does, and maybe we've gotten some of their trinkets out of the way, maybe my ally has stunned the enemies, the rogue mage in the 2v2 matchup, the rogue trinkets, I can get a full blind onto the rogue and really delay that opener and allow us to get a lot of pressure onto that mage to force that cauterize or block before their next kidney shot. Okay, so Blinding Light does have its uses in 2s, but mainly for 3s with Rogue Mage. Repentance, good in 2s, and good when paired with playing with a Warlock, like Windwalker, Warlock. You might find a lot of use out of Repentance when you're playing with those 2 classes. And then Fist of Justice is just very strong all around. So find the one that best suits your comp. Now for level 60, always take Devotion Aura. For level 75, you always take Holy Avenger, so not much discussion there. Level 90, you always take Sanctified Wrath. Melee Wings, in my opinion, is very just lackluster. I mean, it's decent healing, but pretty lackluster in compared to your regular wings, and it's not very mana effective. 10,000 mana, 10% of your mana. Paladins rely being mana efficient, so I don't take it there, but there are some use cases for it. And then level 100, I just always take, Divine Purpose. So most of your talents are locked in, but there is some variability here in some of the earlier talents. Okay, now for your trinket choice, depends if you're a human or if you are, like a blood elf or something. Traditionally, now I'm taking trinket a lot more, pretty much every game. If I know that I'm not getting a lot of value out of my trinket because there's just so much CC that, if I'm fighting like a shadow priest and a hunter, sometimes, your trinket doesn't really give you much value because the CC chains are so long that by the time you trinket, you're gonna be waiting for a long period of time, or you trinket early and then you get placed into another CC. So hopefully that makes sense. If the chain's so long and you don't get good trinket value, Relentless is going to be better there. Relentless is pretty good into Demon Hunters in 2s. If you're getting trained by a Demon Hunter, having Relentless can be very effective in trying to avoid some of those mana burns. Making sure that he has to stay in Metamorphosis to land those mana burns is nice. But Gladiator's Medallion is extremely strong for the Holy Paladin currently because of Ineffable Truth, right? You're constantly getting your trinket cooldown back. A lot of people, or people in my chat, don't know that Ineffable Truth also resets your Gladiator's Medallion because it is a class ability, classified as a class ability. So Relentless is good during long CC chains, but Gladiator's Medallion is pretty much your go-to. So experiment with both, but usually it's Gladiator's Medallion. Okay, now really quickly going into your actual PvP talents, I'm going to talk about the things that you never take. I never take Darkest Before the Dawn, and I never take Spreading the Word. So just know that. Never mess around with those 2 options. They're not that much value. However, Paladins do have a wide variety of PvP talents and things that you can take. So in one shape or another, you always want to have Divine Favor, whether you get that through Conflict and Strife or whether you select it as a PvP talent. Now, if you are playing 3s, you most likely are going to be playing something like Vitality Conduit. So Vitality Conduit is one of your strongest abilities in 3v3s. I don't normally play it in 2s, but I'll kind of go over when I do play it in 2s. I know a lot of people like playing it in 2s. If you're one of those people, I dislike you very much because it makes the game just take so much longer when you could be playing things like Concentrated Flame or anything to speed up the pace of the game. I do not like Vitality Conduit in 2s, and also sometimes it actually can backfire on you quite a bit. But if you're not getting Divine Favor through Conflict and Strife, if you're not playing Conflict and Strife as one of your essences, you have to spec into it, right? So if I am playing it, I get it for free. If I'm not playing it because I'm playing like Flame, for example, or I'm playing, Vitality Conduit, I need to make sure that I spec into it. So you will always have Divine Favor locked in. It's just too strong. It's very mana efficient, a very powerful heal. And with, Ineffable Truth, it's an extremely short CD as it is. You can get multiple of these out. So very effective. You will always take Light's Grace. It's another option that you will always take in one form or another. It's just a very powerful PvP talent. Flatline just increases the healing of your Holy Light by 50%, and it creates a damage debuff or a damage reduction buff on your allies. So the more Holy Lights you're getting out, you're getting 5% damage reduction, stacking up to 3 times. This is very good for yourself. It's very good for your allies, especially if you're playing with like a Warlock and you want him to be a little bit more durable. Spamming out Holy Lights is going to make him a bit more durable. So you will always have these in one form or another. And then for 3s, most games you're going to be taking Ultimate Sacrifice. So your layout for 3s will really look something like this, especially if you're playing like Rogue Mage. Again, this is just kind of just your bare bones talents. You can experiment with other talents if you feel that you don't need ultimate sacrifice, but the purpose of this guide is to really get you guys going. And you can ask me more specific questions in the comments, or you can come out to my stream, or you can check out Borngood stream, right? There's some options out there for you if you want more specific help, but just to get you guys going into, you could get 2.4 easy with these talents. I mean, the rating is so inflated right now. I'm not even playing this character anymore. I mainly play with viewers, and I barely play. It's so inflated. If you want to get your elite title or whatever, those achievements, now is the season to do it. So again, in threes, your talents will lock in something like this. Traditionally, you might be playing Rogue Mage as a Holy Paladin. We'll get to comps later on in the video, but this would be my talents when playing with the Rogue Mage. Actually, Blinding Light. I'd probably play something like this. Maybe Cavalier if I felt comfortable, but something like this when paired with Rogue Mage. However, for twos, you have some like variability there. So I like to play Flame a lot in twos. I'll play something like, you know, this in twos. For example, we'll get to essences specifically later, but then I have to spec into Divine Favor. I have to have Light's Grace, and then usually I don't play Ultimate Sack in twos. So remember, I always have to have these locked in, and then now I can choose my third, right? For twos, I don't really need Ultimate Sacrifice. I might play it when I'm queuing into like a Destruction Warlock where I absolutely need a get out of jail free card, right? If my ally is getting blasted by one-shot abilities, if I'm playing, for example, into a Fire Mage or a Destruction Warlock, I'm going to take Ultimate Sacrifice. But if I'm playing into like an Holy Death Knight, I'm not taking Ultimate Sacrifice. If I'm playing into an Arms Warrior, I'm not in twos, I'm not taking Ultimate Sacrifice, right? Because I don't need the damage, like is ramping damage. It's not damage that's just like you're instantly dead, I need to sack you, otherwise you're going to die, right? You're giving your ally a bubble, and in return, you're taking some of the damage that they're taking in the form of a dot. So I don't really need that. So versus Unholy DKs, for example, that's when I'll take Hallowed Ground in twos, right? Now, a lot of people would ask why I don't take Blessed Hands, for example. Why I don't take Blessed Hands into Unholy Death Knights versus Hallowed Ground. Well, for example, you know, Bop versus Unholy Death Knights isn't going to do too much. It is going to prevent some damage, but it's not going to prevent all of the damage. Also, I only get 2 charges of freedom, and then after that, I'm kind of stuck with the Unholy Death Knight. So I play Hallowed Ground instead, because every time I use Consecration, it removes all snares and slows on me and my allies within Consecration. So it's very effective there. It's a 4-second CD. It costs no mana, and you can literally just spam out Consecration every 4 seconds to keep removing Chains of Frost and kind of gimping his damage, because he's spending all of his runes trying to slow you rather than dealing damage, and you're constantly breaking out of them. So it's very effective versus Unholy Death Knights. And then I save my freedom for my ally, my DPS ally, who's trying to chase down the enemy healer or what have you. Whatever he's trying to do, I save freedom for him, and I use Consecration for myself. But versus like Arms Warriors, for example, I will take Blessed Hands, because Bop does a lot versus Arms Warrior. Versus, you know, Assassination Rogues, I take Blessed Hands. So that's kind of what I would lock in, is these two, and then you would experiment between Hallowed Ground versus Shadow Priest. I would take Divine Vision, right? I don't take Cleanse the Weak very often. I might mess around with it if I don't feel like I need. Maybe I'm playing Conflict Major, so I don't take Divine Favor because I don't really feel like I need Vitality, Conduit, or Flame, so I get this for free. Then maybe I'd play Divine Vision and Cleanse the Weak. Cleanse the Weak is pretty effective for Shadow Priest, but Divine Vision is where you really gimp Shadow Priest. So it seems great to have both of these, but essentially Divine Vision is going to extend your aura, and it's going to nerf all of their shadow damage by 15%. Okay, so that might be an exception where I would take it. But again, for twos, you can experiment with these other options. Avenging Light is another option that you can take. Avenging Light is a very aggressive PvP talent. Essentially, you're doing extra damage via your Holy Lights. It splashes off as a radius effect, and it deals extra damage, and it's very effective when trying to kind of nuke somebody down. If you're using a Divine Favor Holy Light with wings, that Holy Light's going to heal for a lot, and you're dealing 30% AoE damage around the target that you heal. So it is very good. The time that I do take this is if I don't want to play Flame, for example. So if I don't want to play Flame, I'll take this, and I'll play Conflict and Strife, for example. So if I play Conflict and Strife as a major, I can play Avenging Light because I get Divine Favor, and then maybe I'll play Blessed Hands. So I'm able to do damage, but I'm playing Conflicts, I'm a little more durable. But versus Rogues, traditionally what I've been playing now and I found to be effective is I might play Conflict here, and then I used to take very often Cleanse the Weak, because Cleanse the Weak, although you would think you'd use it for dots, every time you Holy Light, it dispels all disease and poison effects. Now, this was very effective versus assassination rogues, believe it or not, because they're spreading this wound poison very frequently, and you're not going to be wanting to constantly dispel this wound poison. So if they leave you alone, because there's claws, mythic claws now, and all these trinkets that deal damage and other things that you might want to dispel, I would often play Cleanse the Weak, because if he left me alone, because rogues are spread pressuring a lot and he wants to keep his poisons up, if I Holy Light myself once, I dispel myself for free. If he leaves my ally and comes to me, then I Holy Light him and I cleanse that as well. So I'm wiping off those poisons, thus gimping a lot of his damage, and I found that to be very effective. But another option you can explore versus rogues is Divine Vision, believe it or not, because Divine Vision nerfs all Gushing Wounds damage by 15%, and a lot of their damage is, in fact, Gushing Wounds. You're nerfing Gushing Wounds damage by 15%. So very effective there. So versus rogues, it might be something like this. But there are scenarios where I don't even play Conflict. If I want to play very aggro, I would play Flame and maybe something like this. And I would even play Repentance, and then I would tell maybe I'm playing with a rogue, for example, I'd say go the enemy rogue, so that way he has to go on you, and then I can land reps off your kidneys and chuck in flames for damage, and my talents might be something like this, for example. Very aggressive. Very aggressive. So basically what I'm trying to get at is there's some variability here. I know you're looking for a direct answer in what you play. Every comp you fight has different talent selections. For 2s, for 3s, it's pretty much a lock-in. Obviously, if I'm fighting like a Shadow Priest, I might not play Big Sacrifice. So if I'm fighting Shadow Priest Ellie, for example, I might not play Big Sac if I feel like I don't need it. I might play Vitality Conduit, and then maybe I wouldn't take Blessed Hands. Maybe I would take Divine Vision, right? So there's not always a guarantee. You kind of have to know what the comp is that you're fighting and what you feel like you're going to need depending on who you're playing with. Maybe you just want to play very safe, and you will always play this versus any comp, but sometimes you know who you're fighting and you don't want to play Big Sac because you feel like you don't need it, and you get a lot more value out of Divine Vision versus Shadow Priest, for example. You need to kind of figure that out a bit more on your own. What I want to show you here is that you're always going to lock in Light's Grace, you're always going to lock in Divine Favor. The third option is up to you. Avenging Light's good in 2s, Blessed Hands very good in 2s, Ultimate Sac is very good in 3s. You pretty much always want to have this if you can fit it in somehow. Cleanse the Weak I don't take very often, but you can. Divine Vision very good for Shadow Priest. I love to take this. And then those are your primary option. Oh yeah, and Hallowed Ground as well for 2s versus Unholy Death Knight, but that's the only time I actually take that. So again, I know it's quite a bit regarding your PvP talents, but don't overthink it too much. Just kind of explore, and you can always ask me questions in the comments again or at my Twitch chat, which you'll see on the screen. So now let's go over, since we talked about essences quite a bit, let's go over essences. So for 2s, again, I try to play Flame, whenever I can. Flame for me is just my go-to. I like doing damage in 2s. I don't like to play very safe. I know a lot of people like to play like Vitality Conduit Major. I don't. If I don't have to, I don't. I'd rather play more aggressive and end the game faster, but personal preference, I guess. So these are kind of my lock-in for 2s. My essences for 2s that I normally take. There are some cases where I would play Conflict, and that's versus Assassination Rogues. And if I play versus Assassination Rogues, I like to play Formless Void because I can fit in extra Corruption, right? For 3s, I always play Formless Void as a minor because I want to lower my Corruption resistance. But versus Rogues, maybe I can fit in an extra Verse Amp if I am playing Formless Void, right? I want to have Ineffable Truth, but I also want to have Verse, and we'll talk about that when we get to the corruption portion of the video and stats. So I would play this sometimes into a rogue in 2s, like Assassination Rogue Disc Priest might be what I would do. But if I'm playing with someone that's going to be training the rogue, then I might play Rep, and then I might be able to get away with playing Flame because I'm not all by myself dealing with the rogue, right? That happens pretty often, where if you are playing Conflict and you're fighting an Assassination Rogue, you're banking on just kind of bringing the rogue really far away so that he can't spread his pressure, right? When he bleeds multiple targets, he's getting more energy, meaning that he's dealing more damage. So the further I drag the rogue, the less damage he's actually dealing overall because the less energy regen he has. So if you're playing Conflict, you're kind of banking on just tanking the rogue really far away. If you're playing Flame, you're in their face dealing a lot of damage. And if you're fighting a rogue, you can play flame. You just want to make sure that you have your ally on the rogue kind of peeling him while you're going for reps and stuff like that. So this is kind of what I would play. Sometimes I play conflict, and again, Formless Void would come in. And then the only time I play Vitality Conduit now is for 3s, or I would play something like this if I'm fighting like a mage in 2s, because a lot of the time versus mages in 2s, you don't have a lot of the ability, I should say, to avoid polymorphs, right? You don't have that. You can't easily avoid sheeps as a Holy Paladin. One of your issues, right? So sometimes you're forced to sack, or you just sit really tight on a pillar and you don't want to get sheeped. One thing that you want to do is try to pre-vitality sheeps, right? You want to tank the sheep so that you get put on DR. So if you know you're off DR or you're worried about getting sheep, you can kind of just run in there, and just like a shadow, like a discipline priest would, or like you would do with Blessing of Sacrifice, let him go for the sheep when you think it's a good time. He'll cast the sheep, and in the last second, you'll vitality your ally, and then while you're getting sheeped, all of that healing that you're getting from the sheep is transferring over to your ally, and he's getting healed to full, right? So you're healing him to full, and you're not losing any of your health, because that's the way Vitality Conduit works, right? It kind of links health, it saps health from another target and puts it on the target that you applied Vitality onto. So if you then Vitality him and you get placed into a sheep, you are transferring all that sheep healing onto him, and it's a freebie, and then you tank the DR, and you're no longer going to be getting placed on a sheep DR for a little bit. So that's very effective there. So that's generally what I would play versus like mage in 2s, versus like warlocks in 2s. I'm always playing flame, and just almost every other scenario I'm playing flame. The only time I really play conflict major is versus rogues, and then again outside of that I have Vitality Conduit and minor in some way. So those are your essences. Always have Vision of Perfection minor, very strong. Always have Conflict and Strife minor for most cases. I mean, you can get away playing like if you're fighting like a Shadow Priest and you feel like you don't want the extra versatility, but for me, I just love having Conflict and Strife at some point. It's just very strong, especially verse being so strong this season. And you know, these are my auto lock-in minors for the most part. So that is your essences. Those are the ones that you're going to want, and those are the ones that you should grab, especially Vitality Conduit if you plan on doing 3s. Okay, that was your essences. Now really quickly hopping into your stats. Crit and verse are the stats you're going to want for this season. You're going to want to have, honestly, you can get away with having lower crit than this. I know it seems weird. In the past, people would have like 40% crit. I like to be around 30%, 28 to 30%, and then I want to have my versatility around 25 to 30%, right? Those are the numbers that I'm looking for. Really quickly, I'm sure some of you guys are wondering like what I'm socketing or what I'm gemming for. I am enchanting, socketing, and gemming all for verse. So I have versatility gems, I have versatility ring enchants, I have versatile navigation. Everything is gemmed and socketed for verse. A lot of my gear is going to have heavy crit, and it's hard to find heavy verse gear, and you want to bring that versatility up. Eventually, there's just too much crit, and you want to have more verse, because verse is going to increase your healing, increase your damage, increase your survivability. Crit is just there to pretty much get bigger heals out, some bigger damage, but mostly it's to just get those procs for your infusion of light, right? So you want to have a good crit, so you're not just sitting there always fishing for fast cast holy lights, which I'll probably get to in a little bit later in the video. My cloak's a little bit behind. You probably could fit some Versa amps, but around that stat, those stats are where you're going to want to be. So crit verse on as many pieces as you can get. You know, I have a haste verse ring because it's heavy verse, and then crit verse rings, crit verse. You're just looking for as many crit verse items as you can get. Some of just the items that you're going to want to have, just like before, you're always going to want to have a revitalizing voodoo totem on deck. You're going to want to have a safeguard if you think you need it. You're going to want to have a maledict, and you're going to want to have a claw, forbidden, obsidian claw, gladiator's maledict, and you're going to want to have a revitalizing voodoo totem. Now really quickly going into your Azerite traits going on from stats. Indomitable Justice is what you're going to want. Divine Revelations is you'll see commonly like Tournament Realm, but for 3s and 2s and just to have fun, honestly, you guys, and just for live servers, Indomitable Justice, having 3 of these is pretty huge. Another one that you're going to want to have is Light's Decree. This is a Retribution Azerite trait, but if you spec into Ret and then you put, you select it and then you go back to Holy, you get to keep it. And the only reason why you're taking this is that it extends the duration of your Avenging Wrath, your most powerful healing CD, your wings, by 5 seconds. So that's why you're taking it. So you want one of these. You want triple Indomitable. And then you can play things like Glimmer. But honestly, Glimmer breaks a lot of sheeps. And the healing is so just poop. I mean, it's very effective in PvE and Raid and Mythic Plus, but it's just not, because you're not playing Crusader's Might, you're not spamming out Holy Shocks, it's not the same thing in PvP. So having one of these is nice, but it's not that great. And then you can play things like Avenger's Might. So just all you need to know is that you want to have triple Indomitable Justice, 1 Light's Decree, and then the other ones really don't matter. If you can get things like On My Way for extra verse, I would take that. Elemental Whirl, the other minors don't matter too much. Triple Indomitable, 1 Light's Decree, everything else doesn't really matter. Okay, now going on to your corruptions, you guys. Corruptions are probably what you're all here to learn about. Most important corruption in the game is Ineffable Truth. You want to have rank 1 Ineffable Truth. Later on, you can start fitting in some rank 2s, because for per point of corruption, rank 2 isn't as efficient as rank 1, but eventually you'll get to a place where all of your slots are filled and you have extra corruption space. That is when you throw on that rank 2, right? So you want to have Ineffable Truth on a lot of your pieces. I'd go for 7 is a sweet spot for me, and then for now 2 versatility amps. You still want versa amps. You want to be heavy in verse. You're going to need that verse, especially for 2s. It allows you to do a lot of extra healing, and it allows you to deal a lot of extra damage, and it helps your survivability. So I would go for 7 Ineffable Truths, 2 versatility amps, and then maybe down the road you can double up on your rank 1 Ineffable Truth and make it a rank 2, and then maybe you can fit in some more verse amps that way as well. Okay, so for now, 7 Ineffables, 2 Versa amps, and then see what you can fit from there. That's the sweet spot. If you go 9 Ineffable Truths, for me, it's a bit overkill. I've tried it, but it's up to your personal preference. I think a little bit of mixture of both is kind of where you want to be currently. Okay, guys, that is pretty much it. I'm going to quickly talk about comps and the class strategy in general. I'm going to refer you guys to one of my older guides that I did not too long ago, where it does break down your abilities a bit better. I'll put a link to that video in the info box below if you're kind of lost in your rotation. I'll quickly just say this though, for this video, if you're not wanting to go back to the older video where I do break it down more in depth, because I've done so many Holy Paladin guides and it's kind of the same information every time, is that your class is extremely cooldown reliant. And if you're mismatching your cooldowns with with Ineffable Truth, it's kind of more free nowadays, but in general, your class relies on cooldowns. If you have no cooldowns, you have no healing, right? So that's why Ineffable Truth is so strong. So if you're mismatching your cooldowns for offensive CDs that aren't that strong, or if you're just pressing abilities when you don't have to, like if you're wingsing, at the start of the match and they haven't pressed anything, the enemy hasn't pressed anything, no Vendetta, no Combustion, no, Unholy Frenzy, no Avatar, for example, you're going to have a lot of trouble healing during those scenarios if you have no cooldowns, right? If you winged at the beginning and then Unholy Frenzy comes out, or Vendetta comes out, you're gonna have a much harder time dealing with those abilities. So you need to make sure that you're tracking enemy CDs. You need to make sure that you've watched my Omnibar video, which I'll link in the info box below, and you need to be pairing your offensive CDs, offensive healing CDs, or your defensive healing CDs, I should say, with their offensive CDs. If you're not doing that, you're not playing Holy Paladin correctly. You need to pair CDs and trade them. It's just a trading game with Holy Paladin. So that's one thing to note. And mostly the rotation is keeping up Bestow Faith when you can, because it's very mana efficient. You want to be Holy Shocking on CD to try and fish for some procs on your Holy Light, Infusion of Light to get a fast cast Holy Light. Essentially, the class revolves around Holy Light. I rarely use Flash of Light. If I'm not getting any procs like I'm getting right now, then I'm going into some of my instant casts, like Light of the Dawn, into a Holy Shock, and then I get a proc. And then if I really want to top somebody because they're falling low, that's when I'll opt for Divine Favor, and I'll go into that Divine Favor, into that Holy Light, into a Holy Shock, not getting a proc, Bestow Faith, into the Light of the Dawn, and then I'm going to be using things like Light of the Martyr, which, I have to find someone to target to Light of the Martyr, but I can use my Light of the Martyr. If you're wondering when you use Light of the Martyr, it's pretty much your oh shit button. It's a button that you don't really want to press. It means you're having a lot of bad RNG and not getting procs, like I just got right there, right? If I'm not getting the procs that I'm wanting, like right here, I'm getting the Light of the Dawn proc into a Holy Shock. It's kind of like a rotation, right? All of your instant casts come first, and to get to your proc on Infusion of Light for that Holy Light, right? I just do this rotation, Bestow Faith. Okay, now if he's in trouble, then I might use some Light of the Martyr if I need to get to my next Holy Shock. If he's still in trouble, then I'm Light of the Martyr. But those are just oh shit scenarios, right? If you have wings, nobody's gonna die. If you have Holy Avenger, chances are no one's really gonna die, right? It's when you have nothing to press and you're doing that little dance, fishing for holy lights, you know, fishing for all of your cooldowns, and you're not getting anything, then that's when you press Light of the Martyr. Okay, again, all this is explained in a different guide that I'll post in the info box below, but that's generally the playstyle of the class. You know, just always fishing for instant casts, and when you're not getting anything, you can use Light of the Martyr to buy you time. I barely press that ability because usually I'm getting something. I can heal with something that's instant, and then when someone's falling low, you know, I always go into Divine Favor, Holy Light, but I only use it when I have an infusion of light proc, unless there's a class on the enemy team that can't purge off Divine Favor because it can get purged, right? So something to kind of note there, right? And if someone's stable and you don't know what to press, like what do I press when someone's at full HP or at 80% or 90% HP and they're not taking a lot of damage? What do I use? I just spam out slow cast Holy Lights because I get that Light's Grace buff that we picked in our PvP talents, making him more durable. Okay, something to keep in mind, right? You want to keep that buff up if you can. It's very important to keep up Light's Grace. Okay, so that's kind of just a simple rotation of the class. Again, refer to my older video. As far as comps go, in Paladin and 2s, you can play with literally anything. You can play with a Hunter, you can play with a Demon Hunter, you can play with a Windwalker, you can play with a Rogue, you can play with a Death Knight, you can play with a Warrior, you can play with a Mage, you can play with a Warlock. Holy Paladin can literally play with any class in 2v2s, so just have fun with it. The stronger ones are going to be things like Rogues, Windwalkers, Demon Hunters. The classes that are notoriously already strong in 2s, Warlocks, Destruction Warlocks. Demon Hunters are very easy to play with because if they're, you know, they know what if they at least can press their buttons, you know, you're gonna have a lot of pressure there. So something to keep in mind. As far as 3s go, you have a lot of hybrid comps. That's where you excel in, right? The Holy Paladin is not very strong with melee cleaves because melee cleaves don't have the best ability to interrupt range CC most of the time. So when you're playing with like a Warlock or a Mage, for example, they can kind of prevent a lot of those Mage sheeps that you can't avoid easily and fears and so on, right? So the Holy Paladin is good, and it's very cooldown reliant, so you want a class that can kite very well as well. So you want to play something like Rogue Mage, right? Notorious. Rogue Mage, Holy Paladin is very strong. Destruction Warlock Warrior, Holy Paladin, hybrid comps, where you have a caster, a melee, and then you. You also do very well with double caster because same theory there, same principle. They can stop a lot of interrupts. They can, first of all, they fish for interrupts, but they can also stop forms of CC on you, right? So if you're playing with a Destruction Warlock and a Fire Mage, you never have to worry about getting interrupted for the most part because they're casting so many abilities that the enemy team needs to interrupt, and then you also they can prevent CC on you as well. So Holy Paladin is very good with double caster, and then your best comp is probably Rogue Mage, Holy Paladin, but you can play Destruction Warlock, Arms Warrior, Windwalker, Destruction Warlock, and then like Fire Mage, Destruction Warlock. Those are some of the comps that you would play. You're not often going to be playing with like a double melee cleave like Windwalker, DK, Holy Paladin. It can work, but it's not something that you would often see, and it's not something that you'd have the most success with overall. However, it might be good in some rare case scenarios if you're doing like a Shadow Priest, for example. So those are the comps I recommend. That's the general playstyle of the Holy Paladin. Again, if you have any more questions, you guys, you can let me know in the question box below or the comment section below. You can check out my live stream somewhere here on the screen, and you can also sign up for my Patreon page if you want to support me, this channel, and my videos that will be coming out, especially going into Shadowlands. And at the same time, you can also receive some inexpensive coaching for helping me out. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.